Hey everyone, Emmanuel here. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about I guess, a term I can coin it, internal stretching. So obviously you have many ways of looking at stretching, and there's many different types. I would have spoken about static and dynamic stretching. This type of stretching is, I want you to see it more like a decompression of the joints or a gapping of the joints. So it can give you a quick idea. So just kind of put your arm out like this and kind of just grab just below your wrist, right? And very slowly start to kind of pull. And what you're doing is you're trying to relax and see if you can create some space. It's gonna be maybe a couple of millimeters, I don't know. Like, you're not pulling very hard, but with this elbow I'm pulling away, and with this hand I'm pulling the fingers off. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to relax my wrist at first, and I can feel it. It's almost like decompressing. It's like getting a little bit, like, imagine the way the joints are, right? They're kind of tight, and you're kind of gapping them a little bit, okay? And it feels really wonderful. I call it like an internal stretch because it feels like everything's going on inside of you, right? It's also another way of looking at, because you have gut muscles, of course, and they can be stretched, but there's a whole lot of tension that's stored up in the joints. And approaching it like how I'm going to show you, more of like a decompression or kind of like a stretching of the joint, you will find that your joints, especially if you've suffered from certain injuries in the joints, you'll find they feel better. It's almost like, for me, I feel like I get nutrients inside the joint. I know it sounds kind of unusual, but joints have a capsule around them, and there's just not a whole lot of blood flow in joints. And that's why it takes them so long to heal, and they get swollen. It takes so long for the water to leave. And gapping them like this, or opening them a little bit, at least in the mind at first, and later on in a deeper way, it just feels really good, okay? I'll show you kind of how I do it, and if you do it this way, you'll never injure yourself. Nothing crazy will ever happen. But I usually start in a kind of lying down position, and then I can progress to standing up if you like. But what I do is I try to visualize, like if I'm lying down, kind of stretching first from my fingers. So because you got a good visual, right? So I start to kind of walk you through it as I'm here. So I'm lying down on the ground. You can see my right hand over here. There we go. So I start to kind of stretch first from my fingers. And there's gonna come a point where I can't reach anymore, and I can really feel my fingers are at their max. I try to relax. And then now, in my mind, I stop thinking about my fingers, and I start thinking about like the hand itself. So not the fingers, but this part in the middle, right? And I start to stretch with that part. And then when that can't go any further, I start to stretch with my wrist. I start to like open the wrist, and you should feel like you're literally opening that spot. And then later on, I'll stretch with my elbow, so I'll focus on the elbow. And then later on, focus into my shoulder. And guys, it for me right now, it feels like I've made up about an inch in terms of reach, right? I've opened, mentally, in my mind, I focused on opening the joints. Are the muscles stretching as well? Yeah, you can feel it. You can actually feel the muscles really, really reaching. The feeling is almost like I'm grabbing onto something and I'm hanging. If you've ever had that, you've grabbed onto a chin-up bar or something and just hang. And you realize just by the hanging, you can feel your arm stretching, right? Now, you should try this in various positions. So I did it with my hand here. You can do it like here too, right? You know, you got gravity against you, so it's a little different, right? But I start to reach with my fingers first. Again, guys, you have to put this in your mind, right? Visualization stuff, right? You put it in your mind. And then the bones of the hand, the knuckle area, and I start to kind of reach there. And sometimes I'll wiggle the fingers just to get that feeling, and then the wrists, and then the elbows, and then the shoulders. And everything feels really long right now. The arms feel really long, they're reaching. Sometimes I'll make a little turn, you know, I'm trying to open them up a little bit more. And when they can't go anymore, I simply place them down, okay? And I would do it like here, 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 like any different position. And the idea is, again, because thoughts are so important, guys. Thoughts are real things, right? So you need to be able to move your thoughts and your intention around. You just have to think about it. So I just think about my fingers, and then I think about my knuckles, and I think about my wrist, and I think about my elbow, and I think about my shoulder. And the thought, very similar to a car, guys. Like, what do they say? If you're going towards a ditch, if you lose control of the car, they say, look where you want to go, right? It's like in your mind, look where you want to go. Like, think about what you want to open up, and it'll happen. You'll actually feel it. What I like about this now is all the individual muscles of my arm start to disappear, and the arm starts to work as one piece, which is very important. Because it does work as one piece. You can break it down into its compartments, and for those of you that know professional bodybuilders, you'll see, don't call those guys to help you move. They're useless. The whole body doesn't work as one unit. It looks great, it looks very strong, and physique's wonderful, but the whole thing doesn't work very good, okay? You can stretch yourself out part by part, but you also need to understand the arm works as one full piece. And I'm just saying the arm now, and it's going to be the whole body, but we're breaking it down. What I love about limbs is that they're kind of like mini people, okay? So it's like the shoulder here is like the head, the waist, and the arms. And the same, the head, the waist, and the arms. Like they're like, think of it like a mini you, right? And then the one in the middle as well. So you have like 5, and then you're going to unite them all. So I would do this with my entire body. I would with my toes. So in there, so it's hard to see me. I got black socks on the mats, but I'm reaching with my toes, and then I'm reaching with my ankle, right? And then my knee, and then my hip, and believe me, this leg right now feels an inch or two longer than the leg beside me. So you can do the exact same thing with the legs. You can do the exact same thing with the spine and the body. So you could, again, lie down on your back as a starting point. And again, it's almost like somebody's pulling your hair first. So you feel like, your head's being pulled, right? And then the neck, right? Like somebody's literally pulling your neck. And then I start to get into kind of like the spine area. I start to really get long, right? And I start paying attention to it. I really have visual of somebody pulling my head this way and down. So I'm getting really long through the spine. And again, I'm speeding it up now for the video, but this is something that might take you 5 minutes. And what I like to do in my mind is I go through step by step, head, and I just say to myself, and then later neck, and later upper back. And maybe you won't feel it. Maybe at the beginning it'll be hard for you because it's tense or something, but it's there. Just stay with it, okay? And it almost becomes like a form of prayer or meditation. It's very tranquil. You're really working with very gapping, like little spaces between your spine. And you know how important that is for anybody who knows a chiropractor. That gapping is very important, okay? For you. And if any of you ever used, those inversion tables where they strap in your legs, they turn you upside down, and you can feel how gravity starts to kind of gap your spine. It starts to open the knees, starts to open the hips. But it's not necessary to do an inversion table. It helps because gravity is helping you. But you could also visualize and work with this as well. Now, if you had a couple of people, let's say when you get to class, they could pull your arms on one side lightly and pull your ankles lightly on the other side. This is excellent too. This is another way of facilitating it. But it's not necessary. You can also do it on your own. It's just be more patient because you might not feel it as much, okay? So think about the entire body and opening the joints a little bit. So it's like stretching them, or maybe stretching is wrong, but opening the joints. And I never want you guys to, this is very important to me because I talk to lots of people about this stuff, guys, because yes, people come for martial arts, but generally people have other problems. And eventually all of this stuff comes out, and a lot of people have bad shoulders, bad back, bad knees from other sports injuries they've had. And eventually in training it comes out this is an issue. So I talk to, kids talk to a doctor, talk to a surgeon, I know lots, right, from the years of athletics and stuff. So I asked them, and one surgeon gave me the best answer. I'll never forget it. It was so beautiful. He goes, Emmanuel, before I ever do surgery, he was shoulder and knee guy. Before I ever do surgery, I tell people to do me a few things. First, to watch what they eat very closely for 30 days. And to also, if they've got a bad shoulder, to grab like a chin-up bar or to grab something like this and just hang a little bit. So when I say hang, I don't mean like it could be all your body weight, or it could just be half of your body, but you grab something, you drop your weight, and you just relax. And he said you do that 3 times a day for 30 seconds for 30 days. So 3 times a day for 30 seconds for 30 days. And he goes, and you watch what you eat. He goes, make sure you're eating foods that don't inflame the blood, drink lots of water, and try to eat healthy. And he said, based on his results, that the 50, almost 48, 47% of the people after that said to him, I'm actually okay. Like the injury had improved to the point where it didn't need surgery. You could, if you want to look for surgery, you can always find a reason to do surgery. But the general rule is if you don't have to have it, don't have it, because there's no guarantees that it will be better. And he said almost 50% of the people got to a point where they're like, I'm okay with this. Like I can live with it like this. It's not as painful, it's not as restrictive. And he said that hanging, he goes, just basically gap those joints so that nutrition could come in and heal itself. And did the same with the knees and the back with the squat. He goes, for 3 times a day, for 30 seconds, for 30 days. Squat as low as you can. He goes, just hold on to something and just squat down. Flat-footed, knees bent, as low as you can go. And that position of opening the knee and the position of the hips being bent that much. So if you think about the way a squat looks, right? Your knees are bent, your ankles are bent, and your back is bent, okay? As deep as you can. It will open those joints, and it will promote nutrition to go in, healing, stretching, and flexibility, and those kind of things. So I'm a big fan of that. Like if you have a knee problem, maybe at the beginning you can't squat all the way down. That's okay. Go as far as you can, hold yourself, but hold it for 30 seconds. Try to relax and breathe as much as you can, and do it 3 times a day for 30 days. And watch how much your knees will improve. Same with your shoulder, with the hanging, with the arm hangs. And then that was the initial. I had a challenge for those students that were around a couple of years ago. I had a 30-day challenge for those 2 things back to back. Everybody that tried it said their shoulders and knees and back felt much better. So then I added that into my training, but not necessarily just that way, in all ways. So I stretch myself, the muscles, and I stretch static, I stretch dynamic, and I also add this into the training. So it's a simple idea of like every joint that you have, not pulling it, but the idea of trying to think of making it long. And by making it long, you feel that the joint starts to kind of decompress a little bit, because tension holds it tight. Now, on a deeper connection to Systema, okay? Because I gave you guys some clues there. The joints hold a lot of tension. That's a known, guys. They do hold a lot of tension. So, and it can be good and bad way, because if you know how to use this tension, you can like jump like a rabbit. If you know how to release the tension that's built up in a joint properly, it's like a rabbit. It's literally like it releases the energy. I watched a deer one time, maybe 200-pound deer, jump straight over a 6-foot fence, straight up. He literally, no warm up, no nothing. Deer's just in the forest, sees somebody, doom, like a rabbit, jumps straight over a 6-foot fence. The stored energy in the legs is unbelievable. They understand how when they bend, that they let the energy go. What we do with our joints is we hold the tension, and that's from stress and life, and it's stored up in our joints, and it's literally eating us alive, right? So by doing this, you study how to relax the joints, and that way not as much stored tension in those joints, so they move a lot freer. You'll start to see that, shoulders start to move really, really nice. So then you're able to understand them better, okay? And you're able to later put in tension and get rid of tension, but because you need to understand them, they first have to kind of move good before you can ask them to store tension, let go of tension, right? So on that note, decompressing those joints, it teaches you, to me, how to let go of tension. I remember I was studying this very specifically for about, I usually do 8 to 12 weeks. If I change something, I give it 8 to 12 weeks before I give an opinion on it. And because you need time to feel it in your body and see what the benefits were, right? Because it's one thing to read about the benefits, it's one thing to think about the benefits, it's another thing to do this and try this, right? So what I found was that I wasn't getting as upset easy. It was like tension or anger or fear would come into me and it would roll off me. It was like water. It didn't stick to me as much. It just rolled off of me. Much smoother, you know, it was very interesting. I noticed the same thing when I started eating better. When I started eating and drinking more water and just healthier than I'd been in the past years ago, you could feel that the sweat even moved off your body different. It was like not so sticky. It was like actually really like water coming through you, because you can notice these little things in you, right? So on that note, not to get too talkative, lie down, think about the toes, the foot, the ankle, the knee, the hip, and then the same with the arms. And then try get into the spine. Think of the tailbone being long, the head being long, and then getting into those spots. The last one, the spine, is the hardest because we're really tense through the back, guys, from stress. We sit wrong, we do things. So if you don't feel it, it's okay. Take some time, to feel that effect. And slowly you'll start to feel how you can actually open up, gap each joint little by little. Really interesting feeling. And it's a different way of looking at stretching, because you start to stretch your body, not muscle by muscle, but by eventually one full piece, right? So the overall feeling would be, if you could imagine 4 people, one person on each arm, one person on each leg. So 4 people pulling you lightly, just very lightly, maybe 5 or 10 pounds of pressure, right? Pulling you, and you relaxing and letting the joints open, even for about 5 minutes. Not a torture, just a light pull, nothing painful. You could see how when they let go, your body would feel completely different. It'd feel more flexible, and the joints would feel much healthier. So something to think about, and a different way of looking at stretches, more of an internal joint stretch. And also have you look a little deeper as to how you take the stretching aspects and apply it to the martial art, because that's really, for me, you're studying how to let tension not get bottled up in the joints, because maybe you're incredibly flexible, but if your joints hold tension, when you get upset, that's where they're going to stay. So you really, really, really want to make sure that, as you're training and you get upset or angry or emotional somehow, that the body allows it not to get stuck in different joints, but it goes through your body. There's nothing wrong with emotions, guys. Just don't hold on to them unnecessarily, right? It's okay to get mad, it's okay to get sad, it's okay to get happy. Just don't hold them unnecessary past what's good for them, especially unconsciously, which is generally how it happens, okay? Hope you find it helpful, and I've got a few other stretching ideas for you, okay? See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.